And now back to our local news with some opinion pieces, and this one comes from Monty Meth, the life president of Enfield's Over 50s Forum. I've lost count of the number of time bombs now said to be ticking away, threatening doom and gloom. Nick Clegg tells us that jobless teenagers are a ticking time bomb. The British Medical Association claims the NHS upheaval is another. The clock is still ticking on whether Greece and the Eurozone will be saved from collapse. And William Hague warns there's a new time bomb threatening the Middle East if Iran gets nuclear weapons. So I'll join the ticking time bomb club by throwing in two more that are nearer home. Firstly, 10 million people alive today will live to be 100 or more years old. Secondly, while the Freedom Pass is safe for now, elsewhere there's a creeping campaign to undermine free bus travel for older people. The government has cut its grant funding necessary for concessionary fares, reduced the fuel tax rebate by 20%, causing bus fares to rise, ended the half-price fares on long-distance coaches, and cut funding to support unprofitable bus services. Add to that the fact that in 1911 there were just 100 centenarians in the country, and now there are at least 12,640. By 2030, that number will grow to 97,000, and you can see that we are still totally unprepared for the increased cost of life expectancy among our oldest old, which is still increasing by an amazing 5 hours a day. It will need more money spent on adult social care, and more money for the Freedom Pass. This coming year, Enfield needs to find £94 million for the former and £10.6 million for the latter, and there's no way that more money will not be needed for both, year on year, in the future. We'll all be old one day, but faced with this agenda, who'd be a councillor under fire for Sunday car park charges while seeking to balance the books? And this comes from Nick Dubois, MP for Enfield North. A view from Westminster. It could be worse. We could be in the euro, he writes. The Eurozone crisis has not gone away. Ratings agencies continue to fix their glare on Greece, Spain, Portugal, and even France. A bad outlook for EU countries is bad news for Britain, considering we do 40% of our trade with them, and yet it could be much worse. You only have to look to the recent past, to a time when a powerful lobby of politicians, institutions, and commemorators pressed extremely hard for Britain to join the euro. Had we done so, Britain would today find itself tightly shackled to a failed political project that is preventing Eurozone countries from being able to take the necessary steps to escape the debt crisis afflicting them. What strikes me about the actions of that political lobby 10 years ago, documented in the book Guilty Men by Telegraph columnist Peter Oborne, is the vicious personal attacks on opponents of the euro. Unprepared to listen to sincerely held and well-argued views of people who disagreed with them, this lobby would tarnish opponents as being from the far right, hysterical, extremist, even fascist. It was utterly disgraceful. Disgraceful, too, was the way opposition to uncontrolled mass immigration would draw fire as being racist. This was utter nonsense, and yet resorting to such smears has the desired effect. It stopped people from being able to disagree with them. Open discussion means this country gets better public policy. Aggressive personal attacks stifle public debate. People should be free to debate, discuss, and disagree with them without being slandered. Cardinal Keith O'Brien, the leader of the Catholic Church in Scotland, has this week strongly criticised the coalition government's proposals for same-sex marriage. My fellow Enfield MP, David Burrows, also disagrees with the plans. They should be able to exercise their right to free speech without being vilified as homophobic. The government has opened a public consultation on the matter, and I hope people will make their views known, whatever they are. We need to forego the vicious and aggressive side of politics that has characterised some recent political debate. It's not fair, and it's not right. And now some letters, and this comes from Andrew George of Lavender Hill in Enfield. Definition of a marriage. I strongly disagree with Councillor Achilles Georgiou. MPs and councillors have a duty to protect and promote relationships and institutions, such as marriage, which are part of the cohesiveness of our society. If this means taking actions that appear at odds to the popular opinions of colleagues and allies, then I think that's a good thing. To propose redefining an established definition of something as intrinsic to human society as marriage to suit a political purpose, that means undermining that cohesion. Gay and lesbian couples who have chosen to make a commitment to one another through civil partnerships have exactly the same rights as straight couples under law. The legal definition of marriage between one man and one woman exists as a result of society's need to legally acknowledge the unique nature of one woman and one man freely deciding to make a lifelong commitment to one another. This relationship is like no other. Same-sex couples who decide to make a lifelong commitment solely to one another are in relationships that are in their own nature also unique, being between two people of the same gender. To redefine marriage so it will mean something totally different with a catch-all definition for everyone patronizes both those couples wishing to make a commitment in a same-sex relationship and those couples in male-female relationships. Gay and lesbian couples don't need the definition of marriage to be altered to have the right to have their relationships accepted as loving and committed, without having to join into amalgamated redefinition that does not seek to accept and celebrate differences, but seeks instead to force people to conform to its own definition of what marriage is exactly. And this letter comes from Ruth Imber. Shoppers vote with their feet. I quite agree with your article that introducing parking charges on Sunday is killing business in Enfield. I was a frequent shopper on Sunday, but since the beginning of this year have not been to Enfield, as I will not pay the exorbitant charges, and will either drive to Brent Cross or Brookfield Farm in Cheshams, where the parking is free. It would also be interesting to know who Councillor Chris Bond consulted, as any business or shopper would not agree with anything as ludicrous as this. And this letter comes from Anthony Fisher of Bush Hill Park. Art can help us get through these times. In austere times, I think that art, in its broadest sense of painting, music, sculpture, poetry, theatre, everything, takes on more importance than giving pleasure. It is morale-boosting, feeds the soul, and uplifts our mood. During the war, there were community whistling evenings in parish halls. I remember how joyous, exciting, and liberating Bill Haley's Rock Around the Clock was when I first heard it in 1954, the year rationing came to an end. There are as many different tastes as there are people, so we will rarely agree. Art is great, levelling, does not discriminate, nurtures us, is enjoyable and satisfying. Some is better than others, but it does all matter. And some sports news now, and Enfield's Town's Ryman League Division 1 North title aspirations suffered a setback on Saturday when they conceded a last-gasp equaliser to slip at a 3-3 draw at home to AFC Sudbury Town. Enfield Town would probably have settled for a point after falling 2-0 behind after just 7 minutes of what proved to be a dramatic encounter, but the hosts then launched a stirring fight back as goals from Michael Ewang, Jay Seaver and Adam Wallace put them ahead early in the second half. It looked as if this would be enough to maintain their 100% record at the Queen Elizabeth Stadium until, with the game entering stoppage time, Daniel Emanuel scored an equaliser for Sudbury to leave the hosts 4 points adrift of table-topping Leiston, who maintained their excellent run of form with a fine 1-0 win at playoff-chasing Brentwood. Being 2-0 down after 6 minutes is obviously not what we were looking for, manager Steve Newing said. Of course, I'd taken a draw at that stage, but we fought back well and had a couple of good chances to make it 4-2, and it's disappointing we didn't put the game to bed. I felt that all 3 of their goals were very avoidable from our point of view. It felt like a defeat because we conceded so late, but ultimately what cost us was that first 6 minutes. We'll probably need to win 8 of our last 10 games now to have a realistic chance of winning the league, and one of those victories will have to be soon against Leiston. It only took Sudbury 4 minutes to break the deadlock as James Baker headed Michael Shin's corner into the net, and they doubled the lead from their next attack as Nathan Clark turned in Jamie Griffiths' deep cross into the box. But Town hit back as they reduced the deficit within 60 seconds, Ewang side-footing home from 10 yards after good work from Liam Hope. The hosts had the better of the rest of the first half and got back on level terms just before the interval, courtesy of the superb free kick from Seaver. and their comeback was completed 10 minutes into the second half, as Wallace reacted quickest to Hope's header across goal to turn the ball home at close range. Mark Kirby and Tyler Campbell both squandered opportunities to add a fourth, but Sudbury came back into the game as it headed towards its conclusion, and keeper Noel Imber had already made 2 good saves before Emmanuel latched on to John Docker's through ball and fired home off the first post as the match ended all square. Enfield Town visit basement side Ware on Saturday before visiting fellow strugglers Soham Town Rangers on Tuesday. Rising star of Ellenborough Table Tennis Club, Ryan Williams, added to his list of honours this season by winning the Chippenham Cadet One-Star Tournament. Seeded number 1, Williams made light work of the group stage by winning all 3 of his matches 3-0. After receiving a bye in the round 2, he went into the quarter-final to face Jack Jenkins. Williams played with tremendous speed and agility, attacking Jenkins at every opportunity to take the first set 11-4. In the second, Williams continued where he left off and powered past Jenkins 11-2. The third set was a formality, with Williams having 6 match points before eventually taking the set 11-7. Williams struggled at times in the semi-final against James Smith, but managed to get through, winning 3-1. The final against Alexander Gillen from Surrey, and was the second match-up in 2 days for the boys. Williams was on the front foot from the start, while Gillen struggled to contain his opponent. Williams breezed past his opponent and won the match 3-0, his second victory against Gillen in 2 days, to secure the title. Enfield Ignatians extended their winning run in all competitions to 13 games, but were made to work hard in their 26-17 victory over Saffron Walden. Emil Hertz's side faced difficult conditions in the first period, as they were playing into the wind and up a slope. However, despite not taking good opportunities throughout the half, Ignatians went in ahead 12-10 at the turnaround, thanks to tries from bringer Dan O'Mearca and prop Krista Casaby. Ignatians further extended the lead in the second period. Number 8, Paul Basil, managed to break free from a 5-metre scrum and made the line, a score which came just after Walden had their blindside flanker sin-binned for hands in the ruck. However, a lapse in concentration cost Enfield from the restart. Ignatians made the catch and tried to thread a kick-through, only for the pass to rebound off an opposition player and land perilously close to the visitors' line. In desperation, an Ignatians player held an opposition back by his jersey, and referee Mike Bland had no hesitation in awarding a penalty. Adding to Paul Marshall's first half try, Saffron Walden, who prospered via the boot of Ben Thomas in the form of 2 conversions and a penalty, as the hosts hauled themselves to within 2 points. But Ignatians rallied and were soon back on the attack. They made the game safe following a successful catch and drive from the line-out. Tom Moore made the decisive rumble, and after he was stopped just short, scrum half Jordan Wilson sniped through to secure the points and then added the conversion to secure an invaluable bonus point. Enfield are currently third in the London 2 North East, 7 points adrift of second-place Basildon, but with 2 games in hand. Coach Hertz said, "Overall, I was happy, although I thought we tried to force the pass and issue too much, and it's as if we were trying too hard to score the perfect try. I also thought that there were times when we struggled in the scrum, although clearly Saffron Walden had done their homework in that area." Ignatians continue their promotion push when they face Chelmsford at Donkey Lane on Saturday. It proved a good day for the seniors section, with Ignatian 2s continuing their purple patch following a 31-0 home drubbing of Tring 3s. The under-17s promotion hopes from Hearts Middlesex Division 3 received a boost after they gained a default 45-0 win after Welwyn were unable to fulfil the fixture. An under-17s development side suffered a rare reverse when beaten 12-3 at home to Letchworth. Dan McDermott fired Enfield in front, but that proved to be as good as it got. The under-15s were beaten 17-0 by Cheshunt in a full-on derby at Donkey Lane. But the under-13s did much better by coming from behind to master Chingford 47-26. However, the Chingford under-11s proved more successful by beating the Ignatians' counterparts 25-10. And back to local news. A teaching assistant from Edmonton has decided to go the extra mile and run the London Marathon in a bid to help children with special needs at the school. Stephen Heath, aged 58 of Galliard Road, looks after 4 to 11-year-olds at the Brook on Broadwaters in Tottenham, which is a school dedicated to helping young people with cerebral palsy, epilepsy, autism, and other medical needs. The runner wants to raise £5,000 to pay for an outdoor spinning roundabout for children at the school who are in a wheelchair. He's relying on donations to raise his target, which he hopes to hit by the time the marathon arrives on Sunday, April the 22nd. Mr. Heath raised £1,700 by running the marathon last year. The keen runner, who moved to Edmonton 3 years ago from Walthamstow, has started training for the 26-mile marathon by running around Edmonton. He's also joined Virgin Active Gym in Enfield town to make sure he's as fit as possible for the run. He said, "I want to raise £5,000. I'm not sure if I'll be able to raise that much, but I'll just raise as much as I can for the children." I asked the school to see if they would like me to raise money for them, and they came up with an outdoor play equipment as something they'd really like. The teaching assistant worked at William C. Harvey School, which was renamed the Brook on Broadwater when it merged with Moselle School 17 years ago. The school has no other outdoor play equipment for the children. 10 students out of the 98 children at the school are wheelchair users. An entrepreneurial couple are thrilled to have grabbed the attention of a tough panel of judges hunting for the nation's best independent shops. At a ceremony in the swanky Nukivov Hotel in Mayfair in London's West End, it was announced that Holtwhite's Bakery in Chaseside, Enfield, was joint runner-up in the Daily Telegraph's Best Small Shops in Britain Awards. But despite the narrowly missing out on the top prize, which was scooped by a Hampshire delicatessen, Kate Smith, aged 35, who opened the business in July last year with her husband Richard Copsey, aged 40, maintains she was a bit relieved that the business was not put in the top spot by the judging panel, which included Mary Portas. "If we'd won, what would we have to improve upon?" the ex-social researcher said. "To come runners-up in a national award, it just makes you think what else we can do even better." The businesswoman described how touched she was by the nomination, which came from loyal customers of the shop. She told the advertiser, "We really are grateful to all our customers. I think in this climate shoppers are more quality-driven. They'll spend their money more wisely. They want to treat themselves to an affordable luxury. That means maybe not buying a new car, but buying nicer food instead." And although the couple have no plans to create a special celebration cake to commemorate the award last month, Kate revealed, "We're going to start baking croissants, pain au chocolat, and Danish pastries as a way to expand the business. And we're going to continue trying to make our shop the best it can possibly be." 5 budget Travelodge hostels could be opened in Enfield by 2025. The low-cost hotel chain has announced it's looking to build a hotel in Palmer's Green, Southgate, Cockfosters, along the North Circular Road, and in Enfield town. If Travelodge is successful in securing sites and planning permission, the new hotels in Palmer's Green, Southgate, and Cockfosters would have 80 bedrooms. The hotel along the North Circular Road would be equipped with 100, and the central Enfield town hotel could be kitted out with 60 bedrooms. The hotel chain is already in negotiations with 2 sites in Enfield, the locations of which are yet to be released. If the bids are accepted, the first 2 hotels could be built and opened within the next 2 years, creating 120 jobs in the borough, including entry-level roles. Guy Parsons, chief executive of Travelodge Hotels, said Enfield has a severe lack of good quality budget hotel rooms given the size of its population, local attractions, great transport links and proximity to central London. The 5 hotels we are seeking to open will employ 120 people and enable residents to begin a career in the hospitality industry. Many of our managers started with the business in entry-level roles, and we do all we can to support our staff with their careers. The company also announced on Thursday that it was planning to build 184 Travelodge hotels across London by 2025, the equivalent space to 9 O2 arenas. Mayor of London Boris Johnson is backing the company's expansion plans and said the jobs it will bring to London are warmly welcome. Travelodge and Frontier Estates have exchanged contracts to develop a 132-bedroom hotel on the Lumina Park development in Enfield in time for the 2012 Olympics. The £4 million hotel has already secured detailed planning permission to be built at Frontier's Lumina Park on the Great Cambridge Road. The sale of 1.5 acres of the Woodcroft Nature Reserve is in the final stages of completion. The vast section of green space in Winchmore Hill was sold at auction for more than £700,000 on February the 21st. Enfield Council, which owned the land prior to the sale, is yet to confirm who bought the site. Up to £100,000 raised from the sale will be injected into the remaining 3.4 acres of the site to make the reserve more attractive and to install new toilet facilities for public use. The reduced site, known as Woodcroft Wild Space, will be managed by Woodcroft Wild Space Limited and Enfield Council. The two groups will organise nature trails through the woodland, wetland and meadow areas. Schools will also be invited to the site to learn about nature conservation, biology and wildlife. The Council's Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, Andrew Stafford, said the Council had put our money where our mouth is by listening to the community and providing a first-rate space, as well as minimising the impact of government cuts. 2 armed robbers who stole £42,000 from an Enfield bingo club have been jailed. The balaclava-clad pair threatened a female member of staff at gunpoint on May the 31st, 2010, at approximately 7 a.m, when the woman had just started her shift. She was forced to open the safe and hand over money before the men then ran off into a vehicle which was waiting for them outside. Mohammed Mukungo, aged 33, of Turnpike Lane in Haringey, was sentenced at the Old Bailey on Thursday to 10 years in prison for conspiracy to rob the Gala Bingo Club in Dursley Road, where he was a security guard. Police suspected an inside job, and Mukungo was arrested. Mukungo had plotted with Damien Latchman, aged 27, of Snows Hill Road, Newham, and an unknown third man to carry out the offence. Latchman, who was arrested last April, was jailed for 11 years for the same offence. A young Enfield rap group made it to second place in a music competition at the O2 on Monday night. The 6 teenagers who make up the group E-Wiz, Airborne, sang their own track, One City, in front of pop group McFly, who judged the 13 finalists. The band had beaten 2,500 people between the ages of 11 and 19 to get to the final of the Next Brit Thing competition. They were given positive feedback by McFly, but missed out on the top prize of £3,000 worth of music equipment and a recording session at Abbey Road Studios for the competition winner. Piano player Paul Shevlin from Belfast, a Beatles fan, won the competition. Emmanuel Mukungo, aged 17, from Enfield Lock, is the lead rapper for E-Wiz Airborne and has been rapping since he was in Year 6. He said, "I'm really happy with how far we went in the competition. We gave it our all. It was a really different experience performing in front of McFly. It went really well and we've got some great comments." Although not a big fan of McFly, he said it was a good opportunity to perform in front of a well-known band, but said it was a shame there was little opportunity to speak to fellow competitors. The student, who's studying for his music AS level and ICT BTEC at Bishop Stopford School in Brick Lane, Enfield, said he was keeping an open mind about entering future competitions. The group, who were all aged 16 or 17, had 5 minutes to perform the track last night, which Emmanuel had written and produced himself. 3 of the band members, Praise Neomata, Emmanuel Bucknor-Smart, and Peter Solomon Toure, met Emmanuel at school and have been training every day for the competition. The group wowed judges at the Homerton Centre last month in the regional finals to get through to Monday's final. The brother of X Factor winner Alexandra Burke was found not guilty of assaulting his sister and mother after the prosecution case against him collapsed last week. Aaron Burke, aged 19, of York Road, Edmonton, was cleared at Highbury Corner Magistrates Court on Tuesday of pushing his mother, ex-Soul to Soul singer Melissa Even, who suffers from kidney failure, at the family home in Holloway. He was alleged to have hit his sister when she tried to intervene in the incident on December the 5th last year. But the case against the 19-year-old collapsed and was thrown out after the prosecution's sole witness, Miss Burke, refused to give evidence against her brother. A spokesman for the Crown Prosecution Service said, following a further review of this case, it was decided that the available evidence did not provide a realistic prospect of conviction. We therefore offered no evidence. Cases are kept under continuous review, and should any new evidence become available, we will review this decision. 9 cash-and-carry stores in Enfield are being investigated by trading standards officers after selling toys which failed safety tests in the run-up to Christmas. Enfield Council's Trading Standards bought 34 different toys, mainly from discount stores and cash-and-carry wholesalers, during an undercover investigation late last year. Following safety tests, 16 of those toys were considered unsafe for children. The toys that failed are being recalled, according to council chiefs. Officers spent a week in December inspecting the toys, looking for telltale signs that they were not safe. Shoddy toys typically enter the market during November and December, taking advantage of the pre-Christmas rush. Chris Bond, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, said, "We don't test toys at random. We know what we're looking for and what sort of toys are likely to fail a safety test, so it's important that residents don't panic. But it's necessary that the toys they do buy comply with appropriate safety standards, are well made, and are suitable for the age of the child for whom they are purchasing it. If anyone suspects a toy they're considering buying is unsafe, they should leave it on the shelf and report it to Trading Standards officers. In the meantime, we're working with businesses to recall the toys which are dangerous and potentially prosecute the traders responsible for importing them into the country. We take an extremely dim view of businesses that endanger the health of innocent children and will always take appropriate action. Toys should be a source of joy, not a cause of pain, misery and danger." A council spokesman said he would not be revealing the name of the companies being investigated until it had been decided whether to press charges. We've now reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you very much for listening, and I do hope that our full service will be back with you again with a broader range of readers, as usual, next week. So from me, Phillip, the chairman of Enfield Talking Newspaper, and everyone here on the team, goodbye. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet, and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget you can call Diane to Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with the Enfield Talking Newspaper. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.